Riyadh Sidat is a results-oriented professional with a strong background in international development and humanitarian assistance. Holding a Master of Arts in International Development Practice from Monash University and a bachelor's degree in business management from the Miguel Torga Institute, Riyadh has complemented his academic achievements with certifications in humanitarian diplomacy, UN civil-military coordination, and child rights violations monitoring. His passion for multilateralism and dedication to serving vulnerable populations drive his career. Riyadh's impactful roles include serving as Humanitarian Affairs Officer at UNOCHA's Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific in Thailand and UNOCHA's Mozambique, where he excelled in field coordination and liaising with local authorities. His expertise spans critical areas such as peace and security, humanitarian affairs, post-conflict peace building, and security sector reform. Riyadh's skill set encompasses project management, policy analysis, and reporting, making him a valuable asset in navigating complex humanitarian scenarios. With a commitment to youth engagement, gender equality, and mental health initiatives, Riyadh Sidat continues to contribute significantly to the international development and humanitarian landscape.
Riyadh. Welcome to Talking with Sprouts. My name's Shakeel. I'm your host. How are you?
Hi, Shakeel. Thanks for having me, and I'm very happy to be here with you guys today.
Great. Riyadh, I wanted to start off a little bit about, your personal story of how you got here and how that led to you having a career in international development and humanitarian assistance.
Look, Shakeel, it's been a few years where I've been in development, where I also now working in humanitarian assistance. I started my career, you can say so, in the NGO where I did an internship in Timor, working with an NGO that works with security sector reform, where we were assisting assisting them with policy analysis and policy making to improve the security sector reform, which is the police, the military, how they work, the modus operandi in Timor. So I started my career there when I did an internship from the university. But then I got to be an intern with the UN in Nairobi in the Office of the Special Envoy for the Great Lakes, also addressing security issues in the Great Lakes. And then I got a job with UNOCHA in northern Mozambique, which was really gratifying. I worked closely with communities in Mozambique, in the north, responding to constant displacement, assisting people with water, food, shelter, and it's gratifying to be in my country. And then I work now in the regional office with UNOCHA. It's more policy analysis and policy making, supporting the countries in emergency preparedness, emergency response. So another challenge, you can say so, but it's been really good being there. So I can say this has been a couple of years that I've been in international development, but also in the humanitarian sector, working with communities and trying to support them.
Well, that's great. So, I know that there was a background study done now that I read about you, and I think on a professional level, it's clear on your direction, your path, but more on in the early years of your life, when how did the things start? How was your upbringing, and how did that, impact your view on global issues such as inequality,
Great. It's a great question. As you know, we are both from a underdeveloped country, one of the most impoverished countries in the world. There's a lot of inequality within our country, within Mozambique, and also within the continent. And I think it's a dilemma because you grew up as a privileged person with all the opportunities, with access to education, to health, with all range of economic and cultural activities that you can do, but you see people around you with a lot of barriers, to have access to this. So it made me reflect a lot during my upbringing. For many times I questioned, why is this happening? Try to be more engaged in reflection, but more importantly, try to understand the root causes of it. So this all through my upbringing, but also during my early life, I traveled a lot. Very early with my parents, they work in business, so they had to travel for work. So I used to go with them. So I used to also compare what I was seeing home, but what I was seeing abroad, the differences in societies and cultures, the ways of living. So it was really, I can say, mind blowing for me, because it was really interesting to see all of this with my own eyes and try to question it. I remember I was a kid, Shakeel, I was asking my father, like, why is this? Why is that? Why is that? And then he sometimes he was trying to conjure up some words to explain to me, but I think so. All of this, you can say, made me, through my let's say formative years, to try to understand more inequality between states and within states. So and this led me to study international development in Monash University in Australia, to understand the theories of development, in critical theory, the underdevelopment theory, and all this. So I think at the same time, as I said in the beginning, growing up in a very, let's say, underdeveloped country, made me also feel that I can do something for people in my community, for people back home, to try to improve their lives. So all of this led me to where I am today, and then I hope I will have the strength and continue improving my knowledge to continue serving people.
So that's interesting that you say how your journey started off at home, and then it led you to one thing led to another, and you started, through your curiosity, you started to discover more and started to find out that in actuality, these different cultural learnings that you got, teachings that you got with your family and then at university, was what made you interested in understanding the human being and the sufferings and how to improve the overall global landscape. So my next question is similar to that regard, and it's now focused around, in the United Nations, what experiences do you think could be, shared as an example for lessons to give to other organizations and institutions that want to, enhance their operations?
Look, I've been in the UN for I think a couple of years. It's as you can imagine, a big organization with different institutions that have different mandates. But of course, the UN is a global institution that it's mandated to essentially to maintain peace and security around the world, and of course, it's a voice through the Secretary General for pressing issues of our time, to raise advocacy, it's a strong convening power around the world. So I think that is the key success factor for the United Nations. And this involves a lot of things, climate change, addressing climate change, looking out for human rights, advancing economic development, resolving disputes and conflicts, and all these kind of things. But I strongly believe that other institutions, namely, I can say the private sector, has also a key role in supporting, the UN and the NGOs and the civil society in generating employment, building skills, supporting in humanitarian operations, and all these kind of things. Because I think all of us we can do a lot with the resources that we have to support people. But I don't want to say that the UN or the private sector can help each other in terms of operations. But what I can say is there are policies and ways of working that actors can enhance in their work stream to support people within their work stream. So, for example, having values of fairness, human dignity, are crucial for people to reduce inequalities within the system, within the financial system. So, as you know, we have a financial system that that ensures the benefits of globalization flow to all, but we need to put the needs of people first. So, in resume, I want to say is that it's important for actors to have a strong value-based system where dignity, human rights, respect for the labor, and having a fair salary. All of this, I think, are important to reduce inequalities around the world.
And do you think that the United Nations, given the structure that it has and all of these, smaller, we can see, subsidiaries of the overall mother, do you think that it will be possible, not only internally, but also to its stakeholders, to implement the Sustainable Development Goals in the way that it's set out to be? Or do you think that it faces challenges, even within itself, to stand by what it's stating, like all of the goals?
It's a big picture topic, Shakeel, which sometimes it's difficult to answer. But the Sustainable Development Goals are key milestones for global society. So it's what we all want to envision for a better world for all of us. But of course, that entails a wide-ranging policy coherence, policy analysis, addressing structural barriers within the economic system. It's all of the issues that may arise during from 2015 to 2030 that we need to address. But of course, I believe in the Sustainable Development Goals. They are crucial to reduce, as I said, the inequalities and giving people dignity around the world. So I think there needs to be more inclusive collaboration between governments, civil society, and more importantly, giving voice to the communities, because communities need to drive the development within their own local settings, but also be consulted and informed within policy analysis, policy making. So development needs to be context specific, needs to be driven by local actors. So only with that we can support the SDGs meaningfully. Of course, all of it aligned with the national development priorities.
Yeah. Even at SPROUT, we have our own SDGs that we're trying to achieve. And I noticed that with every action that we have, it always needs to be, somewhat directed towards those SDGs if we want that to be accomplished. So I can only imagine looking at from the other perspective of the institution that is trying to instill those values, those developmental strategies towards these organizations and institutions and individuals, how difficult it can be, because, if you have an organization that's been running for over 10 to 20 years, it can be very difficult to try and change the structure of the way that they operate. And so, for smaller, SMEs and MMEs, I think it's easier, but for the overall global agenda, we can say it's a much different topic. So that's exactly the point I wanted to make in regards to what you think that could be some, how could we put in balance in regards to achieving long-term goals and being successful at them.
You mean at
I mean, on a as an organization, but also then you can move on to speaking more about a personal, like how can I be working as a humanitarian in an organization and understand what are my goals and how I can maintain also my well-being.
Okay, so at the personal level, correct? Yeah. Look, it's a great question. So I think for all of us, we need to first define, how can we support people in meaningful ways? How can we put people at the center of what we are doing? We have what we are working now in the humanitarian sector, which is the accountability to affected people, which is putting people at the center of everything that we do. So if it's project design or if it's capacity building, informing, all of this, we need to have bottom-up approaches instead of the regular top-down approaches that we had in many years. So all of this, I think, needs to be aligned with all the organizations, everything that we do. I think from business to the public sector, to the civil society work. I think we need to put communities at first at everything that we do. I think that's the first key thing. But I think personally, as a humanitarian or as a development practitioner, we need to have a sense of humility and sense of understanding more people before we do things. So when we go to places around the world, can be in crisis settings, on natural disaster or conflict. We go to settings where it's highly stressful with a lot of issues. There's no water. There's no minimum conditions. But I think coming from abroad, we need to have that sense of humility to see communities' struggles and how we can help them meaningfully. So avoid, homogenizing communities, avoid, pre concepts. So all of this, I think, should be at the heart of a humanitarian development practitioner. And we need to understand that we are not framing development for people. People need to frame their own development. They need to design their own development. They need to define their own development. And we are only facilitating development in these settings. We are giving them the tools or explaining to them things, but then they should be driving it. So I think this should be the heart of a development practitioner or a humanitarian professional, to work effectively in today's complex world and in complicated places.
And in this complex world, working for organizations that are tackling such big issues or big challenges, what do you think could be what are your thoughts around having leadership that's from a much different generation than maybe you are and I am, for sure, what are your thoughts on that, the intergenerational gap that we have in leaders' mindsets, and on a global scale, but also internally on a local scale?
Yeah. Look, we need to express our gratitude for leaders of today and the past. We did a lot of strides in the last, let's say, 30, 40, 50 years, since World War II, where it was a complicated time. Then we had the Cold War. There was a lot of suspicion. Then there was proxy wars in many parts of the world, and then we had the decolonization, which people did a lot of efforts to give us the liberty where we are today. Today we can vote, we have civil rights. So I think we need to thank them for all that they've done, in the past. But there's been a lot of piece of policy saying that, for example, in the African continent, the median age is, I think, between 17 to 20. So we still have intergenerational gap with the current leaders. So what we need to do is to have more dialogue between these different parts of society to explain how the youth today feels, thinks, what are our priorities, and how do we see, for example, Africa more integrated, more without barriers. We can trade between each other, and more importantly, without conflict. I think a more peaceful continent. It will support us to achieve the sustainable development goals and having more sustainable world. So I think we need to have more dialogue between the leaders of today with the youth, so we can breach that gap.
Yeah, for sure. I think communication is very important. I also think willingness to listen, willingness to be able to give good feedback in regards to work, but also in regards to personal well-being, so that there's a more so there's more togetherness, so that there's more of a team effort in tackling these challenges that we can face working for such causes. And what could be one of the challenging situations you could think about in which it happened to you? I know you worked for UNOCHA in Mozambique and Cabo Delgado, and given that we are both Mozambican and Cabo Delgado is a sensitive topic, but I would like to get your insights on someone that was there, physically, and what could you share?
Look, to give a bit of context, is Cabo Delgado has been facing a conflict for many years now. It's resulting of insurgency. There's a different non-state armed groups that are, causing havoc, destroying communities, and it's very sad to see people being displaced, twice, 3 times, 4 times, So it means that 3-4 times they had to leave everything that they had. They only went to a place with the clothes that they have, or some documents. Sometimes the documents are also burned. So it's really sad to see that, number one, because you empathize with them, because if you've been in this situation, you'll feel completely destroyed. But I want to emphasize something. It's the resilience of communities there. I think people in Cabo Delgado have been very, very resilient in face of all of this. They always try to restore their lives very quickly. Even days after displaced, when you talk with communities, and especially with women, they want to work. They want to be productive. They want to help. They want their children to go to school. So personally, for me as a Mozambican, it was challenging, but at the same time was gratifying to be there and try to support them. So it was my role essentially was to support the coordination of delivery of humanitarian assistance, so food, water, shelter, protection, which is giving people documents, giving people access to services. So we worked in tandem, of course, with the government, with civil society, with non-governmental organizations. But it's challenging because it's in a highly stressful situation. There's risks of your physical safety being attacked. And I was working in hard to reach areas, going to the front line to have missions, interagency missions, what we call, to support people, delivery of assistance, carry out need assessments, talking with communities, having their views. So, and this involves a lot of things, coordination with between civilians and military, because there's active zones where you cannot go. You need to, of course, contact prior. All of this involves, a lot of uncertainty, I can say, and requires a lot of mental resilience. So, there was times that you feel that you completely burned, of course. You completely burned because you wanted to do something, you can't. You want to help someone, and you can't because you don't have access or something like that. So, all of this contributes to a challenging environment, I can say. But I think as a humanitarian, you need to be adaptive to that. You need to be adaptive. You need to have the emotional intelligence, and what I call it, emotional agility, to understand that there will be times that you'll be having issues, but at the same time also you need to continue further your efforts to open up channels or access to go to a certain place. Of course, and more importantly, Shakeel, there's the issues of resources. I think we don't talk that much, but a lot of emergencies in the world are getting less resources, and some emergencies are getting more resources. And today we have I think this year, the global humanitarian overview, we had, I think, above 300 million people in need of humanitarian assistance around the world. If I'm not mistaken, it's 1 in 23 people in the world that require humanitarian assistance, and I think it's a staggering number, and it's only increasing because the needs are increasing, humanitarian emergencies are increasing. There's more famine, there's food insecurity, the effects of climate change with conflict. There's increasing trade barriers between countries. So all of this fragmentation contributes to lower well-being of communities because they're not being. It's not trickling down. It was challenging because you have all of this, big picture, complex issues that translates at your work at the local level, and sometimes we have issues. We're all these barriers. But then, what I also wanted to emphasize is the work of civil society. I think civil society were also very active in Cabo Delgado, because Mozambique is a particular context because we were a strong development state in terms of, after the civil war, we did a lot of strides in pursuing development and enacting policies, and we're doing well. So all of this, we had a robust development system where organizations had, stronger knowledge, ways of working, project management within development on a long-term orientation. But when an emergency happens, they had to shift quickly. They had to shift quickly to be a fast-paced organization that addresses needs very quickly. So all of this, I think, was a difficult transition. But I think now, after a couple of years, they are improving their work to support communities in this fast-paced environment. So that's one of the difference between being a development practitioner, being a humanitarian professional, where you have a long-term orientation and a quick quick impact. You can call it a quick impact project where you have to save lives. So one is save lives, one is to give rights to people at a longer perspective. So all of these issues I saw in Cabo Delgado, and of course I hope that the conflict can end soon, because I think the best fix for humanitarian assistance is peace. So when you have peace, you have people restoring their lives, and you don't need humanitarian assistance. So I think that's the best remedy for it.
And now that you work in Thailand, I know that your career spans multiple countries: Mozambique, Thailand, Argentina, Portugal, Angola, Timor. So, you've been in multiple countries from around the world, not even from the same continent or that speak the same language. What are those cultural differences that you notice, and what's some insights you can share on that, like your experiences in each one, that's mainly what I wanted to ask. Is the cultural differences that you notice in each country, and how is there like an underlying foundation in which you see humanity as in all these countries, but of course through all their differences.
I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to interact with people from all over the world in the last, let's say, 10 years or more. Since doing my first studies in Portugal, then having some small experiences in the places that you said. But I think it's all societies have their own ways of interacting or dealing with people, but some cultures are similar. For example, when I was in Argentina, in Portugal, it was a bit similar to Mozambique. They have a tendency to be a bit collectivist, some collectivist society where people look for each other. So all of this helped to me be integrated there. Quickly make friends, quickly do activities with people. And also when I was in Argentina, of course, the Spanish was easy for me from being a Portuguese speaker. But I think when I went to Australia, it was a key change in my life, because I was a bit mature and I could understand things more clearer. And so for example, there's issues there with how migrants or immigrants or be included in society. What are the roles of the welfare system supporting people from other countries. So all of this made me understand more from a global perspective how things work, because Australia is a big country, a strong immigrant country. So there's 2 or 3 generations of people coming from all parts of the world. So all of that, I learned a lot how people deal with immigration, what are the struggles they had with immigration, and for me, from a personal perspective, how did I fit in within society? And of course, it's much difficult for me to integrate in an Anglo-Saxon society from with a Portuguese society or Argentinian society. So it was a bit challenging for me, but I was there for 2 years studying. I had to make friends from all over the world, people that I still cherish today. But all of this, you see differences between society. Some are more collectivist, some are more individualistic. Some are more linear in the way of working. Some talk talk within, symbols, or their communication strategies are different. But what I tried to do always, Shakeel, was to absorb everything. I think I've learned from my parents that I need to absorb, all these experiences. But of course, importantly, not to forget your values. Where do you come from? Well, what are your values from your home? The collectivism, the strong sense of community, again, helping people within your communities. And I saw all of this within the various places there that I've been. Of course, some places more, some places less. But I think I always sticked to my values, even if some of them were inadvertently trying to be compromised. I try to stick with them, try to always remember them. I sometimes note it down so I can't forget my values and where do I come from, where do I want to go. So that helped a lot. But and also I went to Timor. It was very similar to Mozambique. When I landed there, I remember in the first day, I felt I was home. I felt that was home because it's an island, very relaxed. I feel very relaxed. People are, in a very nice mood. People don't talk a lot of Portuguese, which was I learned it there. Only like people more the people who studied in Portuguese schools or know Portuguese, but majority of people speak Tetun. So I also learned the language because there's a bit some similarities with Portuguese, because there's a mix with, I think it's a mix between Bahasa, which is an Indonesian language, with Portuguese. So, but I think that I think it's also a piece of advice that I always give to me, is that when I try to go to countries, I need to learn the basics of the national language, so I can quickly interact with the locals, quickly understand them, absorb the culture, absorb their good qualities, engage critically with their the way of work, and try to learn from it. It's been a I think very gratifying experience, and learn from all the societies.
And in regards to the youth that are coming after us, the generations that are coming after us, for them entering this field that you're in, what do you think could be some advice that you could give them in regards to, you just said, when you go into a new culture, learn how to absorb it, learn how to understand, and how to implement the right set of values that you've learned to that environment. But now more on like advice, just advice on someone that's finishing high school now, going to university, following the path that you are on. What could you give to help them out? Him or her.
Yeah.
To be inclusive. Him or her.
Yes. I think some piece of advice I can give is, more importantly, be persistent, because it's very challenging to go into the first door into the system. Before I got the first internship at the UN, I did like more than 70 or 100 applications to get one opportunity to have an interview. I think it's always to be persistent, be determined about your goals, where do you want to go, and do a plan. So I did a career plan where what are the resources that do I need to achieve my objectives, how to build a supportive social network, how to increase your resilience in face of adversity, what kind of training do you need while you're not getting a job, if you can do some volunteering. That's what I did when I finished my bachelor's degree. I had work, so I went to be a volunteer in Argentina. Of course, all from my pocket, but I went to be there to be a volunteer, to learn how struggles of a small community, try to learn from them. and I'll try to build my understanding on a practical part, because I had the theory from university, but I wanted to also have the practice. But yeah, be determined. But more importantly, when you get a job, always be engage in self-reflection. What kind of work are you doing? What are your challenges? How can you overcome the challenges? All of this will help you down the line when you have this constant reflection of your work and engaging critically, asking why are you doing that, to whom it benefits. So I think all comes with what I said before. Being humble in face of adversity, and having that emotional agility to overcome the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But from a practical basis, is to apply a lot. Sometimes I can say, I want to say lastly, is be visible. Always be visible to recruiters, because sometimes sending an email, popping up an email to a recruiter, asking them if about opportunities, about a certain position. Sometimes going physically to places just to knock on doors and ask for work. I think all of this needs to be done if you want to get into the first door. After that, things get easier, I think.
And on your own personal life, is there a piece of advice or a mantra that you live by that influences you or has influenced your journey until now?
Maybe, I don't know. What can I say? Always be determined. Never doubt yourself, because but then you will not doubt yourself if you don't forget your values. I think whether you come from, as I said, what do you preach, all of this will help you to wake up every day and to do what you love. This can be in every part of what we do. So I try to stick to my values, even if it sometimes is being compromised. People are doubting what I want to do, or where I want to. What are my objectives? Be determined, because people will have a lot of questions, doubts, and about your work, about what you do, the places where you want to go, because people sometimes say, you want to go to a conflict area, which is very insecure. You can compromise your physical integrity, whatever. So it's about being objective about your work, and I try to be always optimistic about the future of the world. Of course, I think through life you try to engage in comparing theory that you learned in university, where you had a more realistic view about the world, about world issues, about conflict, about why men choose to go to war, or all these kind of things. But then when you go to the practical part, when you be a practitioner, you try to engage it more constructively. You try to see the world at a more, let's say, optimistic lens, and see that there are things, yes, very complicated, but there are places where you can make an effort and you can be an added value. So try not always to think that you can change everything. I think you can't. But within a job that you get or a place that you go, try to see where you can add value. Because in places there are already people who are doing stuff. People who are already defining their way of living, the way of working. So I think just to see where you can add value and not try to complicate things. And lastly, more importantly, is the learnability. I think you, as a professional in any sector, you need to you need to learn how to learn. You need to learn how to learn every day from every part, not only with books, with podcasts, with courses, but also within sitting in a cafe, sitting on a bus. You try to look upon the world that you live. Look to the right, look to the left, see the struggles of people, and see how can you add value and support, in the way that you work. So I think being aware, being self-aware, and having external awareness of your surroundings, I think all of this are really important for young people today. And be active, be proactive, to be to contribute to the objectives of your organization, or objectives of whatever you are involved. I think all of these key points are important for us to be an active member, to contribute for in our society.
Well, that was a good way to end the interview. Thank you for so many insights. I think it's very important what you said for youth, but also for every single person that maybe is trying to find their purpose or their mission, or they're working but don't have the motivation to do so. So I think that's a good piece of advice for everyone. And thank you very much for being here today. And wish you the best of luck in your future. I'm sure you're going to be traveling a lot more in your life, and we're looking forward to hearing that.
Thanks, Shakeel. Thanks for you and to SPROWT Foundation for having me here. Just wanted to say that you guys are doing a great work, and I've been following through communication channels, and I wish you guys all the best to you and your team. And yeah, we will be connected in this world again.
Yeah, thank you.